Welcome to ZealZaddy. Tonight we are digging into TTRPG marketing and business with Zack Applewhite. Let me make sure your audio is on because sometimes I miss it. Audio's on.
Check 1, 2.
Welcome, Zack. Why don't you tell everybody who you are, where they can find you, and I'll drop a couple links in before we get started.
Sure. I'm Zack Applewhite of Applewhite Games. I am a professional marketer, usually specialized in SEO, but also been all around with content marketing. You can find me on my biggest platform right now is TikTok with 19,000 followers and 1 million plus likes. But I'm also on YouTube and I'm on Bluesky and I reluctantly on Twitter, Facebook with Applewhite Games, D&D Unlimited. And the biggest thing to know about me in my current stage is that I've been launching out the tabletop business Masterminds on all those platforms and trying to help people in the TTRPG space or who are interested in entering be better marketers and just be more knowledgeable so that they don't have to make the mistakes I've made or seen other people make.
Yeah, that. If you have questions, chat. I'm talking to you, chat. If you have questions, please put Q or question in the chat before your question. I'll be taking questions all night. If you have any questions, we will get to all of the questions before we're done with this, unless we get 1,000 people in here, in which case, no promises. We'll do our best.
Good problem to have.
That would be the most amazing problem to have, unless they were all bots like spamming
Yeah.
us. That would be the worst problem to have. So I'm going to start with something simple. I think a TTRPG creator is just starting out. What should they concentrate on, and what infrastructure should they get put in place?
Awesome. So I'll say that it's different for different products and services. So let's say that you're just blatant, I'm creating a module or a campaign or a one shot, just very that kind of vibe. Then what I would recommend most creators do is think about, okay, if you're trying to make a book, break it down, test the market, make it a one shot or a module. You can always build up on top of that. So the first thing I would say is define your product into something small that you can deliver rather than spending many, many years and raising lots of money to get art. And the reason I say this is because I've seen time and time again really creative, really professional, really good work trip at the start line because they put too much work into that prep and into the wrong kind of preparation. They could have been breaking it down into smaller bits, testing, and growing their audience over time so that when they launch, they get something bigger. So the first piece of advice for that kind of creator is, well, let's break it down into something small, deliverable, easy that you can learn from and grow audience off of. All right. The second thing is that everything can be content. Go ahead, set up social media. I usually recommend 2 platforms you're familiar with, 2 platforms you're interested in, because if you try to be everywhere all at once, you will burn out. And I can talk for hours about burnout because it is the number one killer of creative projects, and it comes for us all. It is death, taxes, and burnout. All right. So that is something that I'm constantly advising people on because they're creative like me. A lot of us are not neurotypical. All right. I want to do 100 things while juggling 50 chainsaws. And I have to repeatedly tell myself no, or at least not yet, so that I can actually deliver on the things that are going to help me grow toward everything else I want to create. All right. That is a hard lesson to learn, but I teach it regularly because I am proven right every single time.
So what do you
So
do? So what do you
go
do
ahead.
for yourself to deal with your own burnout?
So one is that I've gotten much better at avoiding burnout. That is mostly because I, generally speaking, recognize when I have too much on my plate. I still put too much on my plate. I am regrettably human. And it is a frustrating realization every single time that the hours in the day and the energy that I have as someone who has kids and tries to be an active father and helps people, and my hours are not limitless. My energy is not limitless, but my imagination and my desire to create and do things and help people is limitless. So the first thing is that I've gotten better at recognizing when my plate is too full, trimming the fat and refocusing myself on what is my core strategy. What is the most important thing for me to do? What is helping that? What is not helping that? All right. The second thing is that I've set boundaries for myself now. Over the weekends, I am very, very much, especially Saturday, I'm just not on my computer at all. I can't, I'm addicted to my phone, so I can't help that. All right, as much as I'd like to. But I take the kids out and I try to get as far away from the house as possible for as long as possible. And then I usually now don't touch my computer until the kids are in bed on Saturday night. And then I'll do a little bit of computer on Sunday. Helps me refresh, helps me come in. I am geared up to go on Monday because I've been slightly anxious that entire time. It doesn't go away, but I'd rather be a little anxious and ready to go on Monday than constantly going, feeling like I'm doing great, and then crashing out and burning for a week and having to build it all back up again.
Nice. I I don't do the same thing, but I definitely have my process for dealing with burnout. I feel it coming too now, and I didn't used to. It took me a while to recognize my own signs, but if you're somebody who does feel it coming, it's the most important sign you can know about yourself is when it's coming, so you can do something about it before it gets too far.
Yeah,
All right,
and it used to go outside me like a truck. So it's, but you were saying,
So let's get back. Let's get back on topic. Although that is on topic. I don't want to say that on topic. So what leads quickest to building a successful community for somebody getting started?
the quickest way is to be helpful. All right. And that is finding out what you can help people with. That is finding out where those people hang out. So, for example, let's say that you're in map making. All right. There's a lot of people who have a lot that they want to know about map making, and are just asking general questions. So, the first question is, well, where are they? They're on Reddit, they're on Facebook, they're on Discord. All right. In my experience. And then you go in and you be helpful. Maybe you create a niche within the niche of, hey, I am specifically here to help people who are looking to publish maps in the EU, all right, or in the UK, which is completely different. That's very different than doing the same thing in the United States. All right. So if that's a specialty of yours, you create that kind of community because you're being helpful. All right. And creating a community around your products is completely different. All right. So that kind of community, I would say, takes more time, more entertainment. All right. And it's more about finding the people who are broadly within your niche and then narrowing them down in a sort of content funnel so that they can connect. You find the right people to connect with your products.
Well, you brought up a buzzword that has to be explained. What is a content funnel?
So funnels are a
I
fun
know what
word
one is,
that
by the way.
marketing people like to use. Yeah. Funnel is a fun little word, and basically it's catch as many people as you can at the top. All right. And this is used in advertising. This is used in brand. This is used in all forms of marketing, but let's talk about it specifically in content. A content funnel is, let's say I share a meme about Dungeons and Dragons. I get a whole bunch of people who are very interested in memes about Dungeons and Dragons. So they follow my page. But my page, if it's just memes about Dungeons and Dragons, I'm not selling them any dice. I'm not selling them any maps or TTRPGs or DM screens or anything, because I'm only got people who are interested in that, in the memes. So
Right.
now I have to create content to lead them to my products. All right. So maybe I have memes about maps specifically or dice specifically. Maybe I have videos of me creating things. It's about finding ways in between that big piece of content and the purchase. All right. And the softer you can make that funnel, the better. But it still can work on a small scale if you're just like, hey, D&D memes, follow me. And every now and then you're just like, by the way, if you like maps, if you like dice, if you like dice towers, I'm your guy. All right. That's a less efficient one. And this is the other thing about marketing is that there are a million ways you can make marketing more efficient. I am inefficient but effective. All right. The more efficient I am, the more effective I'll be. But that is at the cost of more time and resources, which leads to burnout if I'm not very, very careful and purposeful. So I can tell you that funnel can be very long if you're doing it correctly all the way. But you can still have positive outcomes if you're sharing memes, getting them into your group, into your page, into your Discord, into your Reddit, whatever. All right. And then saying, hey, by the way, I've shared, I make you laugh, but also if you like dice, which I know you do because you're a TTRPG player, because you like
Right.
my meme, I've qualified you somewhat. Some of you like dice and you can buy them here, you know. So that's the gist of the funnel.
Is there an effective, no, I'm sorry, an efficient strategy for doing this kind of funnel building or marketing? Because you said you were effective, not efficient. Is there a
Right.
way of doing it efficiently?
So, yes, the most efficient way that I tend to talk about is content marketing. All right. And I'll talk about it I will use this exact thing that we're doing right now as an example. So, we finish this up, we post the video on YouTube. You take the audio, that's a podcast. Now you're in two places. And that's the whole theme is to break it up into different pieces and put it in as many places as possible. You take the transcript, now that's a blog. While you're going through the transcript, which you can naturally get off of YouTube, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to have to edit it and make it better. Well, while you're doing that, you can take the best quotes, put them over images of me or you, whoever said them, and now you can share them on any social media platform that accepts images, which is most social media platforms. All right. You keep doing stuff like that. You can turn the images into GIFs. You can put the images on TikTok and put music behind it, and now it's more engaging and it's on a video platform. And it is surprising how well images will do on that video platform. All right, and that's true for Reels and that's true for YouTube Shorts. All right, so you take one piece of content. I only have to make the one major piece of content, and then the most efficient thing to do is to break it up as many pieces as possible, put it as many places as possible so that you have as many people vibing in your content and funneling into you. Then you just keep doing that and you periodically hit the sell button. All right. Preferably the way I prefer to do it. So that's the most efficient way. And you'll get them on email lists and you'll get them in communities. You just keep soaking them in what you're doing as much as possible. Touch them on the internet as much as possible so that you stay top of mind. All right. So
Right.
that is very broadly, without a bullet point, without a textbook to go with it, how it works. I don't do things the 100% correct way. All right. I will break this up and I will put it on TikTok, but that is as far as I'm going to go because I don't have as much time right now. I'm building other stuff, and that other stuff takes priority over the optimized because what I'm doing so far is delivering enough, you know? And so that's why I'm very hesitant when I tell people, like, this is the best way to do it. Do not try to do that right away.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you'll burn out. You're not on all those platforms. All right. You have to learn new editing skills, and it's going to take a lot of time to ramp up.
So along this funnel you're creating, one thing that I have heard from people that were trying to figure out how to market was they were like they have a mindset against marketing. They're like, I don't want to be saying this all the time. It'll bother people. It'll drive them crazy. I don't want to. They'll think badly of me because all I'm doing is pushing out marketing.
Mhm.
What is the appropriate response to somebody who's afraid of doing their own marketing? Because a lot really are afraid of it. They think they're going to overwhelm somebody's feeds, which, sorry,
Yeah.
the algorithm won't let you do
Yeah.
that.
So there's several things with that. One is that you're right. if you're constantly saying buy my dice over and over again on any given social media platform, it's going to get annoying for you. It's going to get annoying for them. All right. And because you're not giving them any value. All right. So you're absolutely right. That's why that's not marketing. That is shouting into a void and hoping that people pay attention to you. All right. That's the first thing. The second thing, before I get into how to actually do that instead of shouting into the void, I'm going to touch back on what we talked about earlier. The second thing is that not everyone sees it. I have 19,000 followers on TikTok. Do I get 19,000 views every time I post a video? No. TikTok has blatantly said they test you on 300 to start. All right. If your video performs, if it gets enough likes, enough comments, enough shares, and interactions, then it will release you outside the initial 300. All right. So you can say the same thing 10 times and only get heard once. All right. So now, with that in mind, let's go back to what we were talking about earlier. I said, go and be helpful. All right. If you're going and you're being helpful and you're posting memes and you're posting videos, you're being entertaining and helpful, you're not hurting anybody. You have earned their trust. All right. You haven't annoyed them. You've been helpful. You've been a connection so that when you ask, it's softer, it's better received, and it's not going to feel like shouting. And the general ratio I give people is if you're doing this every day, all right, let's say you post 10 pieces of content a day, which is ridiculous. Don't try to do that every day, okay? 2 pieces of content can be self-promotion, all right? An 80-20 split, all right? The maximum anyone should go is 50-50. What I tend to do is for 80% of the year, I am 100% entertainment and knowledge, all right? And then 20% of the year when I launch something, that's when I get annoying. That's when I go 50-50. But I'm only 50-50 for a few weeks out of the year. And the rest of the time, people know they can come to me for the same engaging, entertaining, and helpful content. All right. So to summarize, you're right. So create other content that people actually want to see. All right. And know that people aren't going to see every piece of content. So don't be discouraged when you have to. And by the way, old marketing adage, they have to see that ad 3 times to even perceive it. 7 times now. All right.
The wolves are out.
It's all good. They're mad. They're inspired. Okay.
Right.
Like, yeah, you have to see something 3 to 7 times to even really perceive it. So feel free to shout about it 2 times out of every 10. That's right. You see, I consider that.
All right, I'm going to bring up a screen, and I'm going to go to another screen real quick. So, somebody starting out, in which order do these things matter?
Okay.
So, it's a list of 1 to 10. Social media, Discord community, community pages like Facebook pages, email marketing, crowdfunding, trade shows or event marketing, affiliate marketing, influencer marketing, SEO, and social or search advertising. And you can say discard all of these when you start. I mean, to me, nobody's doing all of them. Matter of fact, to me, most people aren't doing more than maybe 2 or 3.
Right. Yeah. So I'll say that number 9 and 10, and I'm able to look at your list on a separate screen here. Yeah. All right. Is mostly apt, all right, except that for search engine optimization, which I'm a bit of a stickler on because that was one of the focuses of my profession, all right, search engine optimization is really important that you have a plan day 1 and then don't worry about it, okay? So for me, on YouTube, I end all of my videos with D&D TikTok shorts, all right? Every single one of them. Sometimes I'll add funny. Sometimes I'll add idea. I'll hit other keywords. But the main keywords I'm going for are attached to D&D TikTok and D&D shorts. All right. D&D with the letter N, not the ampersand and. Okay. Because YouTube's weird about it. about the and. And users generally just type DND because they don't want to hit Shift 4, okay, or Shift whatever it is. All right, Shift 7 on my computer. The reason I do that is that now I can look back a year later and see that 30% of my traffic comes from search. I have not worried about SEO much since day one a year ago. I have every now and then updated my hashtags and my tags. That is it. So it should start at the very beginning. You should have it in mind so that you have a strategy for whatever platform you're on. I'm doing the same thing on TikTok. Okay. Have a strategy and then just do that. All right. Then put it at the bottom. I would also then say, where are you most comfortable in social media, Discord, and community pages? All right. Some people are really, really, really into Discord. All right. Then put that at the top of your list. I worked very well in Facebook groups. All right. And this is something that I've talked about before, where one of the things that really worked for me and is the easiest growth I've ever seen is that I created a D&D group called D&D Unlimited. All right. And I treat that like my living room. I post mostly memes into it, and I share those memes into other D&D Facebook groups. People then follow me or follow that group. Okay. Now I have a D&D group. It's got about 7,000 members, and I can promote in there, and no admin's going to delete me. Love that. It's wonderful. So I created the Applewhite Games Facebook page. And instead of posting the memes directly into the D&D group, I post them onto the page. And I share the page into the group. Fun thing about Facebook, if you share, not if someone else does, if you share a Facebook page thing, image, link, post, whatever, a Facebook page post into any Facebook group, let's say I post it into a group I don't own and it gets 300 likes. I can click on those icons and invite all of them. All right, one by one, a little invite button will appear next to their name, and they will get a notification that said, hey, you liked this content. Consider following their page. And that's grown the Facebook page to a few thousand. I also use that for my wife's author page. All right. So that worked great for me, but that's because I understood it and I knew it. All right. Whereas if I had understood TikTok in the first couple of years it came out, I'd probably be a monster right now. All right. Because of the growth impacts that it had early on. But it is better. I'm very glad with the way I did things. I didn't understand TikTok. All right. I probably would not have done that well. But because I understand Facebook, I've been able to do okay for myself there. So there's that. So find which of those three between social media, Discord, and community pages works best for you. All right. Then I would put email marketing underneath that. All right. Because we've learned billionaires mess things up. Okay. And again, I have 19,000 followers. I don't get 19,000 views. If I have a 19,000 email list, I will be in 19,000 inboxes, because what Gmail doesn't do is say, well, we're only going to send you to 300 people. We'll see what your open rate is, and then we'll release you to the rest. You can get blacklisted if you're just spamming people and they're not opening you at all after a time. All right. But just don't do that, and you don't have a problem. If you're at 19,000, check your open rates. You'll be very sophisticated. Most of us, I have 19,000, I only have a few hundred email list people. All right. So I manage all myself in an Excel sheet, and I only send them things that I think will matter to them so that they are incentivized to open. I'm just being natural. I'm not bothering them. I don't have a newsletter either. Okay. They signed up to hear from me about things I'm working on or things that I think will be helpful for them. So I bother them when I have something helpful to say or something interesting to see. All right. And then crowdfunding, trade show, affiliate marketing, and influencing marketing, those are all so specific to what you're working on. If you're working on a small TTRPG, don't worry about affiliate, don't worry about influencer. If you're ready to launch a like $30,000 plus product, worry about influencer marketing, not affiliate marketing, and don't worry about trade show marketing until you have that product delivered. All right. Crowdfunding is I'm very much on crowdfunding. I love it. It's done very good things for me. I love project-based work because I don't like constantly selling the same thing over and over again. That's why I have
Yeah.
SEO set up on my end to let that naturally drive. And I have natural funnels that drive natural traffic that sometimes make sales, but the bulk of my income is going to come from releases and then doing events. So
Right.
basically, that was not a clear list. Okay.
No.
Because it is so based on if you're doing dice, you need a different list. If you're doing TTRPG, if you're doing really expensive hand carved wooden DM screens like Talon and Claw do, you have a completely different business model. You would need a completely different arrangement of this. If you are Critical Role or Legends of Adventurous, you need a completely different arrangement of this list.
Yeah. One person did ask, what is SEO and how do you do that? Do you mean when you're giving your video a title, or are you talking about hashtags?
Yep. So search engine optimization is what that's called. And to understand what a search engine is first think of Google. When you Google pizza near me, you're usually going to get a little box that has three people on it. And I got paid good money to make sure the people were in those top three. All right. There are probably 50 pizza places near you. All right. But only those three are going to get 70% of the traffic. All right. That's why we get SEO got paid so much because if you were in those three, if you weren't in those three, you barely exist. All right. So what search engine optimization is for that is making sure that you have keywords and other strategies so that when people type pizza near me, you show up. I made all of my videos end with D&D TikTok shorts, and now 30% of my traffic almost comes from the keywords D&D TikTok and D&D shorts. I also get D&D ideas and funny D&D TikToks, funny D&D shorts. All right. That's keywords in the title. I also put those keywords in the description. This is where it gets really finicky, and so I'm going to be very, very broad here. Okay.
Okay.
Each platform, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, people are searching. It's a search engine. Even though it's social media, it's both. Google is a classic search engine, so it's easier to think about it in that frame. YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world next to Google. Google owns YouTube. Okay. So if you're running a website, you need to be Google SEO optimized. But if you're running content on YouTube, you need to be YouTube SEO optimized. That means knowing what you want people to find you as. I want people who are searching for my usual fun content as D&D TikTok shorts. On the other hand, I'm doing tabletop business masterminds. I want people to find me for TTRPG marketing, TTRPG business, stuff like that. All right. So I put a lot of that in my hashtags, in my descriptions, in my titles. And I'm still figuring out what keywords best work for that community because it doesn't have nearly the search volume that D&D shorts, D&D TikTok. There's a lot more people looking for fun, entertaining videos than there are people who are looking for what are tariffs, and how are they
Right.
affecting specifically the TTRPG industry.
Yeah.
So that is a very broad, and you can go very, very deep into it. The basic step one, know what you want people to find you when they're searching. All right. Like D&D TikTok shorts, TTRPG marketing. All right. Step two, put that in your titles, your descriptions, your hashtags, and then just go.
You've been around a couple of years and not you.
Mhm.
A creator has been around a couple of years and tried everything marketing wise that they could think of, but they
Yep.
get very little traction. What
Mhm.
do they do? They're not a new creator. They're just not finding success.
Yep. So the first thing that I would immediately want to do is to look at what they're doing. Okay. At a certain amount of time, if you've been doing the exact same thing over and over for a couple of years, for example, I used to run a YouTube channel called Anime Couples by Zack Applewhite. You can still find the videos. Okay. It got like 29 million views. I then created another channel about reviewing anime. It went nowhere. All right. And so I dropped it. You have to learn to either kill or augment certain dogs, so to speak. Terrible analogy, but that's what I mean, right? You have to either try something new within the content, all right, that you're creating, because you're probably 90% of the time what I see is that they're doing the same thing every time for those past couple of years. All right. If they've tried something, they've tried it once or twice. Anybody who's worked with data will tell you that is not enough times to do something to get proper data on it. I posted 14 memes on TikTok, and it was the 14th meme that got a few 100,000 views. Okay. Memes have no business working on TikTok, but I knew that I needed to do this at least 20 to 100 times to actually measure whether or not memes could work on TikTok. All right. It took me less than 20. So a lot of people will try new things once or twice, decide they don't like it or that it doesn't work for them, and give up. So revisit that. Two, maybe there does come a time where you just like need to drop it and try something else. All right. And usually you don't have to do that. Usually you can repackage things. All right. And try new things. So that's a really hard question to answer without a specific example.
Yeah. A lot of these are going to be hard without specific examples. I kind of think that's the way of the industry.
Yes, by the way, the easiest way to find out those other things you could be doing is to look at people who are near you, but not crazy. So, for example, if I was trying to be just an influencer, just a really popular person on the internet, I should not look at Mr. Beast, okay?
Yeah.
Because he's too far up. I need to look at people I can reach, okay? It's just coattail marketing, all right? And do what the people, if I'm at 100 followers, do what the people at 500 followers are doing. All right, look at what they're doing and try some of what they're doing 20 to 100 times. See if it works. All right. And then when you get to 500 followers, look at what the people to 1,000 to 5,000 followers are doing and try doing some of that. Do not try and do what the guy who's doing 500,000 followers is doing. All right.
Yeah.
He or she is in a completely different realm. All right. You're not trying to go from 0 to 500,000. You might want that for yourself, but I guarantee you that's not what they did. Okay. They went from 0 to 100 to 500 to 1,000 to 5,000 to 10,000 and then upward.
Even,
All right.
even on Twitch, when you're trying to grow on Twitch, they have achievements that are set to help you understand that's how you should grow. I don't know if people have paid attention to that, but the achievement system in Twitch is all about that. It's all about giving you incentives to reach smaller, more attainable achievements.
Now, to be fair, that also might be gamification. A lot of medias will do this with I created a new TikTok for Tabletop Business Mastermind, and the gamification they have, Reddit does the same thing of like, you're almost hit a 7-day posting streak.
Yes, exactly.
That will get you a badge that lasts for 2 weeks. I'm like,
right.
Okay. No, I'm immune enough now. But if I was a 14-year-old boy, I'd be like, oh my God, I get a sticker. So it's probably a little bit of both.
Yeah, it is definitely both, and it definitely is gamification. All right, there's a lot of free tools out there for people to use to help to help them with their marketing efforts, but very few of the free ones scale well without putting money into things.
Yep.
If let's say you're doing okay with a few things, and you decide you're going to put a little money into something.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you put your money? You're let's say you're a publisher, a DTRPG publisher.
Sweet. Let's say you're a TTRPG publisher. Your main product is a module, all right? And you've done some social media, you have some email marketing going. Your money is most likely going to be effective in one of two places. Number one, if you have a couple $100, is just better art. All right. The amount of TTRPGs that would make twice as much, if not more money. All right. And I've seen 10x more money is better art. One of the examples from me personally is with my wife's book. We spent, I won't give you the exact amount of money, but we spent over $1,000 on the illustrator to create the cover. We only had that money because of how many micro-kickstarters we did before that.
Right.
But people judge a book by its cover. The cover sells. It gets people to stop. So number one is art, which I am not an artist. I'm very blessed that my wife has some artistic ability. It's not the cover of the D&D books good, okay, but it is good enough to sell. And if when we have money for like her books, the first thing I'm worried about is how good of an artist can we get for our budget? All right. Barring that, if you have good art, all right, that you think will sell, I would consider experimenting with basic ads like Facebook to see if you have the ability to sell there because sometimes it works out really well, especially if you have higher priced items. If you're selling a book that's $60, you make, let's say, $20 profit off of it, all right, all landed, all in. That means you could spend $19 per person acquiring a customer, but the lifetime value of that customer is much higher than the $20. So if you can make a $1 profit, get them on an email list, and upsell them some dice down the road, you're golden. That's how you build a consistent, loyal customer base down the road. All right. So usually for that kind of situation, those are the first two places that I would look at spending a little bit of money where you don't have like a crazy amount and you could be reckless.
Do you use any marketing platforms like Hootsuite or TubeBuddy or anything like that that you believe in, you think are good, inexpensive enough tools to help someone with their marketing efforts?
Yeah. So I'm very, very lean. I pinch every single penny. Here's what I pay for. Okay. I pay for Canva because it works for us. We have maps. I like Incarnate. We pay for that. My wife does graphic design. We pay for Adobe Illustrator. All right. And I have free buffer. I deliver my products either through a free Story Origin account, which is great for delivering ebooks, or through Google Drive, and I just share the link. All right. That is free. All right. Those are probably and here's the thing, like buffer, like, yes, I could turn it on and I could be on LinkedIn with my post.
Explain buffer.
Okay,
I mean, I know
buffer
what it
is
is
like,
just before we get further.
buffer is like Hootsuite. Let's say that you want to post a picture of event you're running. All right. Normally, what you would have to do is copy and paste that post into every social media platform you want to be on. All right. What Buffer and Hootsuite and others like it allow you to do is to say, hey, post this on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Bluesky, all of them at the same time, or you can set different times for the post because if you can get really into the nitty gritty to say like, hey, people hit LinkedIn at 8 in the morning, I'm going to be there. All right. But they like to hit Facebook at lunch. So I'm going to launch the same post at lunch on Facebook. All right. Don't have the time for that. All right. And I don't have the money for the full account. I post to the free 3 accounts that most align with my audience. And I post them all at 7 a.m. because I have tested. And that is the time where I can just post and it do okay. All right. So I'm not highly optimized. Like I said, I'm efficient. All right. I'm like inefficient, but effective. Okay. I'm effective enough. I'm efficient enough to be effective enough. I post at
I
7
love the term.
okay. And I get enough traction that I'm growing. All right. Could I turn that up 20% by posting on every single platform at different times with different content that's specialized to them? Yes. I could probably get 20 to 50% more traction. It will take 80 to 100% more effort. I'm not doing that. That effort will pay off better somewhere else.
Agreed. So, actually, I'm going to skip that question. I'll come back to that one. So, give me a real life example of something that has gone wrong with one of your releases.
Yeah.
And how you corrected course, because
Okay.
this happens all the time. People make mistakes and don't know how to undo it or correct it.
My favorite one was my wife's book, Awakening Anne. We had 200 backers. It went so much better than we thought it would. The highest we'd ever funded a Kickstarter prior to the book release, which we knew, we were like, we want this to be good. But the highest we'd ever gone is 1,000. All right. This one blew past 5,000. all right, within the first, I think, week and a half. And so we destroyed our stretch goals. All right. We actually, for the first one, we didn't have stretch goals. All right. When we launched, we were like, this is a great product. We don't feel the need for stretch goals. Stretch goals with books are weird because it mostly is like more writing. We would rather get this in their hands faster. All right. But we blew through the first couple thousand. It blew us away. So we started cobbling together stretch goals. The first one, like my wife did illustrations of stuff in the book, which is like, hey, here's a sketch of a dress. Do you want this in the book? And the readers loved it. And we did it.
Right.
Then we were reaching for 7,000. We hit it. And what we ended up promising them was a custom pin. All right, which turned out great. It looked beautiful. It was heavy. We still have a few that we save for special occasions, like book launches and using it as an incentive to people at events. Okay. But it was a complete mistake that we never did again, because when we calculated all the costs for shipping out these books, it was with media rate shipping, which for those of you who don't know, shipping a book, if you're shipping at regular rate, can cost anywhere from $7 to $20 just shipping in America. Okay. But America Postal System has something nice called media rate, which gives a lower rate to things like books and movies. And so we calculated shipping at around $4 each. We included that in price because if we don't have to charge our backers shipping, we don't. All right. We think that's nice for them. And the pin completely wrecked that. It doubled the shipping for every order because they are sticklers at the postal office. If they feel a bookmark through the packaging, they can pull it and charge your backer to come pick it up. Say, we have your package. They'll drop it in their little mailbox and say, we have a package for you, but you need to pay extra to get it. All right. So we had no choice but to eat, which basically ate through all of our profit margin. All right. We were profiting about $4 to $6 per normal paperback book, which was the bulk of the sales. And of that $4 to $6, 4 to 5 of it went out the window because we included a pin. What did we do next? We never did that again.
Right.
All right. We ate the cost. We made more money. We've made a lot of money. By a lot of money, I mean a few $1,000s since then. All right. We've made just as much of that Kickstarter and then some over time selling the book in person at events and through Amazon and through other Kickstarters as an add-on. And we just don't do pins anymore because they completely wreck shipping. And offering low-cost books with no extra shipping is one of our favorite things we get to do for backers. We're not willing to give that up.
That was a good one. Yeah.
I also, for my
Flying
first,
Arts.
originally got into poetry, and I did a book of poetry, and I spelled my name wrong. On the spine, instead of Applewhite, I was Applewhite. And so for the 5 people that got that book, because I was just screwing around in college, for the 5 people that got that book, they got a really fun collector's item.
Yeah. Like the stamp with the upside down airplane on it.
Right. Yeah. And they got only 5 books of poetry out there, like Zachary Applewhite.
Right.
And they got it.
Does hold on. I lost where that question was. Oh, there it is. Okay. Should a TTRPG creator become a business?
That is completely up to what their capacity is. All right. So first of all, let's all acknowledge that none of us are getting rich. All right. Many of us can create supplemental income. There is the possibility to get part-time within the first few years kind of money, as long as you're not making really good money right now. Okay.
Yeah.
And long-term, I believe that there is a business model. When you add in enough products, when you get enough audience, when you're doing enough, you can then support yourself. But most of us are doing this on the side from passion. All right. Most of us, for many years, when you launch a Kickstarter, you can either tell them that you are that you are a business or that you are a person. And for most of my Kickstarters I've done, over 25, I've just been a person. All right. It became necessary to become a corporation only when we launched my wife's book. We became Applewhite Games LLC, which I wish I did at Applewhite Publishing. All right. We're running into that
Yeah.
problem right now. All right. There's another mistake for you.
Yep.
Go a little bit broader in case if you ever want to expand with your
That's
names.
why ZealZaddy is an abstract
Oh,
term.
that means nothing. Yeah, that means nothing.
I did
You
not
know,
want to be
it could
attached
mean
to a
anything.
specific thing.
Yep.
Because
And so, I'm sorry, what was the question?
it was,
Like,
should you become a business? Should a creator
right. You should
create
only become
become
a
a business?
business if you want to operate like a business. If you want to go to events, having a business name really helps you in signing up for the events and getting approved. We've run into things like at the Columbus Book Fair, which is huge in Ohio. If my wife doesn't get author placement, because we have an LLC, we can just take a tent, all right, one of their business tents, and we can be there. So it gives you more options. It makes your taxes both a little bit more complicated, but also ultimately easier. All right. You do need to be prepared to follow your funds and open a different bank account. All right. Which you're going to need for many reasons, but mostly to make sure that you're being good with your money. All of that takes a lot out of you, though. All
Yeah.
right. So you don't need to, most people who, especially if you're starting out, don't worry about it. Okay. Also, do not sign up when you Google, hey, I want to start an LLC. You're going to get 5 ads. All right. And then a bunch of people who are really good at SEO to get you to pay them a couple $100s for something that'll only cost, and they'll ask you to pay anywhere from $250 to $1,000 to set up your LLC. It probably will cost you $40 to $100. All right. To just go through your county. You can look up public business administration or your state business, small business help. They will hook you up if you got to talk to a person, but most of them are very good about putting their information online to file your
Yeah.
LLC. It usually costs, and you'll get a potentially an EIN, an employment identification number. That should cost, it cost us less than 100. Okay. Whole thing took maybe an hour in
Us
total.
too. Yeah.
All
Us
right.
too. There's nothing.
So that's just, I got to give that warning to new people who it's there's a lot of people that make a lot of money scamming people off of that one.
Yeah. Do you see things like doing charity streams and giving away product as beneficial for building audience or building growth? Or
I'm going
is
to
it
be
really
on it.
more a waste of your time? I mean, I will say a waste of your time. Doing charities is great, but is it?
Let's talk about bottom line. Okay. So
Yes,
if
this is
you're
about the business side of it.
charity, definitely just do it for the charity. Okay. Expect nothing because honestly, you are likely to get nothing. All right. Most people who are after, who are contributing to those charities are there for the charity and
Yeah.
you are a bonus. Okay. And that's okay. All
Right.
right. Maybe you helped 1 or 2 people connect to the charity. And if it's a charity you care about, great. But as marketing effort goes, one of the things I would rather you do at Origins Game Fair, they have an Origins After Dark. They do a big game thing. And they have you come in, you get a ticket. You are immediately signed up for, it's not a lottery, but I forget what the proper name is for it. But they're going to draw all your tickets out of a hat and everyone's going to walk away with a prize. All right. Those in-person events where people can physically put their hands on things, where everyone is looking at that table and some of them are like, oh, I really want that. All right. Some of them really want the thing, didn't get the thing, go buy the thing. All right. Those kinds of things in my mind have worked a lot better for a lot more. I've seen them work for people in a way that donating your time or your products digitally on a stream for charity, be there for the charity. All
Yeah.
right. Whereas if there's events that you can feature your product at and someone gets it for free and you can easily connect them to where they can get it for money, maybe offer a special discount for that event only, that's good marketing.
The best marketing I've ever found. You're gonna laugh. It cost nothing. No, it did cost something. I was at a trade show, so getting to the trade show and going to the trade show. It's actually the PAX Unplugged bar at night after everyone is done with the trade show. Like it is, you will meet everybody you need to meet to potentially do new things over the next year. It's just so good. I mean, it's networking. Networking is a powerful marketing tool that is very rarely talked about in the industry. Do you do marketing? Or do you do networking?
I
Or
do.
do you believe in it?
I do networking. So one, you're absolutely right. All right. It's harder for me to accomplish in my current stage of life because I have a wife and kids.
Yeah.
All right. And I feel really bad if I'm out here enjoying myself and talking to people and having a drink. She doesn't do this to me. I just feel bad because I know how much work the kids can be. All right. And I want to be home as soon as possible to help, you
I'll tell
know.
you
And
I'll give you advice on how to do it. I did a stream last year that was about cosplay, how to get started in cosplay. And I had a guest on who the whole family does cosplay together and goes to cosplay events. And they're so good at it, like they're very good crafters, that they sometimes are invited, so they get comped. And then they get to spend time with their family, all in costume,
right.
having a great time. If you can do that, that would be a great
Yeah.
way to go.
When the kids get older, maybe but what I do instead, because again, I the way I've described myself for too long is basically a revolutionary or pirate mentality where I don't need to have everything that everyone else has. I'm going to make it work with me. If the Declaration of Independence can be written with quill and by candlelight, all right. If we could have won the American Revolution by sticking forks in a cannonball in a cannon and praying, all right, then surely I can find a way to network without going to the bar. I want to go to the bar, okay, and I
Right.
probably will eventually. But in the meantime, I'm going to get scrappy. So what I do is collaboration. All
Yes.
right. I offer myself up to people or I put the word out there. Like recently, I'm doing this right now. I'm launching a series of D&D one shots that are all cozy. Like the next one is Gone Beekeeping. They're all on this. It
Nice.
started with Gone Fishing, and then it was like Gone Pub Crawling, Gone Speed Dating. It's all just fun, cute stuff. I just put on Bluesky, hey, I like this cozy theme. Does anyone want to hop in on me on this with me? That led to another collaboration. All right, just this year. So that's the way I network is I put myself out there to work with people. All right. And then it naturally begets more people doing more work, doing more interesting things.
Yeah.
So
And
again, to show
collabs.
you, you don't have to have everything perfect to
Yeah.
make things.
If there's anything we've learned from the music industry, it is that collaborations are how you grow fast. It's
But it
the
certainly can.
way. I don't know if it's
TikTok's
the
a
way. It's
great
one of the
example
ways.
of that. If you're going to convention, if you're going to PAX, and you have another person with a TikTok following around yours, try and get a collaboration and on with them.
All right, I'm gonna give you a cool business idea for the masterminds through a
Fair.
question.
Cool.
Maybe. Is there anything like a session zero for new content creators?
That I like. All right. What I would say is that I'm trying to do something like that where people kind of choose their own session zero in the webinars I'm offering right now. All right. I'm
Nice.
offering free webinars. The recent one was Micro-Kickstarter 101. The next one happening later this month is building the Micro-Kickstarter with me. Because again, everyone is so individual with their needs set that I would then say session zero for dice makers, session zero for actual play podcasters, session zero for module writers.
Right.
So I think that's a great idea. It's something to think on. I'll chew on it for a bit. I'd say that I am not doing that right now. The closest thing I'm doing to that is with the webinars where I try to hit a broad section of beginners to help them out and learn things.
Yeah. Let's get to the question in chat. So the question is, do you have any advice for how a TTRPG podcast can grow their listeners on Spotify and other listening apps? there a market for audio only TTRPG podcasts on YouTube?
Yeah. So the thing that I would do, all right, is a little bit of what I talked about. Explore, hey, can you post snippets and put it on an image of the person you were talking to on the podcast or yourself or some relevant thing? Put that on social media, see if you can gain traction that way. What I think would actually work the best for you within that YouTube space, test the long form content, put it out there. There's nothing bad that can happen there. All right. The worst case scenario is that no one sees it, which is another thing I have to tell people about social media because they're sometimes self conscious about, well, what if a post isn't good and then everyone sees it? Like, if everyone sees it, it was good. Okay. So if you post it and no one sees it, no one sees it. Like, oh, it only got 8 views. Okay. Is that embarrassing? Only 8 people know about it. Okay. And they're probably not thinking about it nearly as much as you are. So that's one. Just go ahead and post it, see what happens. Two, try on TikTok posting just the audio and a picture from your podcast, all right, whatever like main image you use, and use their natural captions, which have these big red blocks that follow the text and make it visual for you. All right. See if you can experiment with other no face content, which go Google no face content for podcasts and see what you can learn from there. But that's the first place my brain goes is having little snippets from your podcast that are the highlights of just the text happening and seeing if you can get people siphoning off that way. Again, try it 20 to 100 times to really test if it's working.
Nice. Well, the one category we haven't touched on yet, and I did really want to get to it, is crowdfunding. It's such a big and broad topic,
Yeah.
but it touches all of these other areas because it's seen now as the funding mechanism for pretty much the industry.
Mhm.
So the first question I'm going to ask is one that I think is a deceptive question in people's minds. Does follower count matter to your crowd fund?
Follower count if you're talking about
I
social
mean,
media.
social media and all that. Yeah.
Okay. So, yes, but all right.
Okay.
So, quality over quantity. I started in poetry. All right. My first Kickstarter was selling poems for $1. All right. Because I knew I wasn't worth much. I wasn't an actual poet. I didn't take lit class. I was writing poetry and haikus while I was delivering pizza because I was bored and my radio was broken. All right. And I eventually convinced myself it was worth paying for. Okay. But I knew it wasn't worth paying much. So I did it for $1. In the meantime, I am a marketing student. I'm going to business college. So I decide I'm going to create an Instagram and I'm going to get a bunch of people in the poetry space to follow me. And I did it. I got 10,000 followers. All right. And I did that by following other poets. And if they followed me back, I stayed followed. If they didn't follow me back within the week, I unfollowed them. And I got 10,000 followers. And of those 10,000 followers, the amount of people that were willing to give me $1 was zero. All right. None of them did it. Meanwhile, I am casually growing a Twitter around tabletop games. All right. I'm sharing memes. I'm commenting. I'm not putting a lot of work into it. I have like 300 followers. All right. Two of those followers backed the poetry campaign. They had no reason to. Okay. They were from the wrong audience, so to speak.
Right.
Okay. But that turned out to be more valuable than the 10,000. I talked about this in a recent TikTok of mine where I broke down why there was a media company saying, hey, you need to turn on the cash machine of social media. They themselves got 30,000 followers. I'm like, that's interesting. How'd they do that? They just took Critical Role content and posted it and got hundreds of thousands of views. They're not going to sell much that way. If that's you, that's great for selling a media company to people because you've convinced them that those numbers are important. All right.
Yeah.
But you're not Matt Mercer. You've brought them no value. And when you try to sell them dice and they followed you for Matt Mercer, what do you think's going to happen? All right. So the answer is absolutely if they're the right people. If you've done the right things to get the right people instead of just throwing things out there and follow for follow, that's not going to get you a lot of people. All right. And for your first Kickstarter, I generally recommend be $100 to $500 or less. Go micro. All right. I have whole YouTube videos on this. I do presentations about this at places like Origins Game Fair. To go micro Kickstarter, just Google it or put it on YouTube, micro Kickstarter Zack Applewhite. You'll find a video that will explain all of this. But go lower and just try to get 20 backers. All right. When you're building your followers, you can have 10,000 people. I don't care. Your goal is 20 backers. All right. So that's the answer to that first question.
Do you use sites like Tabletop Analytics to research or look at other crowd funds? Do you learn anything from that if you're not really already experienced?
I naturally am backing Kickstarters and stuff like that, so I've already watched that. But what I generally find is that most of the people I learn from experiencing myself. So I'm running all these micro Kickstarters. I'm launching one a month. I'm learning. Kickstarter's been making a lot of updates since they got a new CEO. His name's Everett Taylor. He's a former marketer, which is very rare for a CEO.
Right.
All right. And he's doing a lot of interesting things with the platforms. He's added things like late pledges. All right. And so I'm experimenting with those naturally. And that is just the best way for me to learn is by getting in the weeds. I will be sharing those learnings so you can follow people. I do follow lots of people and I listen to lots of podcasts. There's one who does a lot of great stuff with comics, and I learn a lot from them for what's learning for those bigger projects. But generally speaking, what gets the most attention are these ones that get massive amounts of money. And what they don't actually talk about is how they work. Because when I have been able to find the few people who will talk about it or corner them at a convention and asked
Right.
about it, if they raised $100,000, they spent 10 grand in ads first.
Yeah.
All right. Most of us do not have that kind of capital on hand. So I don't worry about what they're doing. That's what I talked about with Coattails. I'll worry about that when I have 10 grand on hand to just throw in ads for a $100,000 project.
That actually brings up a really interesting point. When you start contemplating and researching this, you will start getting people looking at you that are crowdfunding consultants trying to help you launch.
Yeah.
Is it worth bringing someone like that on, or is it better to just try and fail or try and work through the things you need to work through? And like, is it worth those people?
So here's what I'll say is that to me, I look at it as highest chance of success. Okay. And how fast are you trying to grow? Okay. Most people will say, oh, I want to be a millionaire today. Okay, great. But that's not how it works. Okay.
Right.
So could you deal with making a few $1,000s next year and making a few hundred this year, but you'll increase your chances of both. Okay. Most people will eventually come around to yes, that sounds okay. I'm like, oh, and by the way, you get to stay sane the whole time. Because the other thing they don't tell you is how many of them crash internally as soon as the Kickstarter is over and several times while building it, and that it took 2 or 3 years to build those major Kickstarters. That's it, you have to look at the whole thing. All right. So to answer the question of, I think your question, remind me, was it how big you should go?
Is it worth bringing on a
Yeah.
crowdfunding consultant?
So most of them are full of garbage. Okay, they're spam. When you launch Kickstarter, you used to, I haven't gotten it lately, but I think new creators do get this a lot. You get a lot of people like, hey, hi, hey, greetings, and they haven't backed your campaign.
Yeah.
They start off with, hey, I'm a professional and I have access to 1,000 qualified backers. And for a couple $100, I'll send an email to them about your campaign and they can all come over to you. Kickstarter updated its spam filter. So now they just say hello. They just say, hey, I love your project to get you to reply. And then they send you the spam. All right.
Yeah.
So don't reply to any of them. There's a couple of out there. BackerKit, LaunchBoom seem like they do decent work. But what they also seem like is that mostly what they're doing is helping you run proper Facebook ads. You can learn how to do that on your own time while building smaller projects, while growing an audience on the way. And you'll also grow funds so that maybe you'll have, like I said, I spent $1,000+ on that cover. I only had that money on hand because of the smaller projects that piled up funds for us to make that investment comfortably.
Yeah. Nice. How far in advance do you need to plan for a crowdfunding campaign?
For every $10,000 you're trying to raise, all right, add 1 to 2 years. Okay, if you're trying to raise $100,000, that math breaks at a certain point. Okay, basically, if you're trying to raise $50,000 or more, you need 3 to 5 years of planning. All right, to be honest, because that's planning the product, that's planning the placements, that's getting people like Launchboom on your side, you need a team. Managing a team is hard. You need enough of the product to launch with. Then you need to deliver the product. That's a whole thing. All right. So if you're trying to raise 50 grand or more, 3 to 5 years is, I think, typical. All right. I think if you get that done in 3 years or less, you're amazing and you probably made mistakes. All right. If you're trying to raise $10,000 or less, then you probably need 1 to 2 years. All right. To a certain point, like I said, I'm raising less than $250 a month on Kickstarters that we are putting out once a month. All right.
Yeah.
It's almost like a Patreon model. All right. But we're letting people, instead of signing up for a subscription, we're just seeing what works in the market. All right. And we're using add-ons to continually stack up on top of each other.
So the buzzword of the moment, tariffs.
Yeah. Yep.
How do they affect all this crowdfunding stuff?
I watched a very good YouTube video, and I'm actually going to Google it, and I'm going to try and find the creator, because what he did was a year and a half, I think, ago, created a Kickstarter in the TTRPG space. All right. And he is experiencing the effects of tariffs in real time. It is JP Hoovert.
Hoover?
All right. Hoovert. Coovert. All right. I'll pass the link to you in Discord real quick, and you can pop it into the Twitch.
Yeah, I'll drop
it. All right. About halfway through, he does an actual money breakdown of how he was expected from a campaign that raised over $100,000. I think it raised around $100,000. And he was expected, with typical tax and tariffs, to get around $30,000 in profit, a good, healthy profit. All right. Because the tariffs on a good chunk of his products basically went to 150% of what they were. All right. He got cut to, I think, less than 10,000. And that's still not actualized. I think personally, because mistakes will happen, returns will happen. Just from that Kickstarter, he's going to be lucky to walk away with $5,000. All right. Because of the effect of tariffs. So here's what to learn from that. One, if you're thinking of doing physical products, see how much you can produce within the US. And if you cannot, do not right now. Wait. All right. Let's say you have a board game. My usual prescription is going to be, see if you can make that a card game and find a card manufacturer. All right. That way you can test the market with your idea. You can expand it into a board game later on if tariffs relax. All right. But right now is not the time to start making that gamble. All right. Secondly, if you can release digital products, paper products and books within the US are doing okay. Materials don't always come from the US, so those are going up a little bit in price, but it's a ripple effect. It's not going to hit you nearly as hard and also some books are protected under, they're tariffed differently, right? Because this is coming from an old Civil War law. In the video, JP Coovert explains it pretty well. All right, so definitely go check that out if you're really concerned about tariffs. He does a very good job of very blatantly laying things out, and I learned a lot from it. My strategy that I've been prescribing people in my TTRPG, in my tabletop business mastermind, is focus on digital and paper and ship within the US as much as possible. All right, especially if you are a first-time creator, just do not put international shipping on your plate. Find a digital version that they can get, because digital is 100% margin. All right.
Yeah.
Because none of us are counting labor. It's a project of passion. Digital has 100% margin. You spend $10 on a digital project, it's done. You made it. All right. Physical product, if you have to make a return on an international, if it's sent to the wrong spot, you get a lot of headaches. A lot of them will come out damaged. It's a lot to deal with. Don't give yourself that headache. In the best times for a first-time creator, I generally recommend don't do international shipping. Right now, don't even think about it. Don't
What
enter.
about what about something like print on demand? Like I know the drive-through can print in different countries.
Mhm.
Are they still affected by tariffs, or are they untariffed in that kind of regard?
Again, where they're going to be affected is the ripple effect of sourcing.
Yeah,
Does
paper and stuff.
their paper
Yeah,
come from the United States? Do the staples and glue that they use in their bindings come from the United States? Most of the time, the answer is no. All right. Now, the good news is that most of them are able to then just increase the price a little bit,
right.
versus if you had decided to print a full book in China and ship them all over, all right, and if you had anything besides the book so that they're categorized differently, you're going to have a really hard time, you know.
Yeah. All right. Well, I had one last question, and it should be
Go
the
for it.
easiest, most enjoyable for you to answer. What's the most important thing you want a viewer to take away from our conversation?
The most important thing is don't limit yourself so that you can maximize yourself. Okay? Which is don't put you are capable of anything. This is a thing I have to tell myself. No one gave this to me.
Right.
I invented this out of pain and I give it to you. I am capable of anything, but not everything. Okay? Some of that's white male audacity because I genuinely believe I could be a UFC fighter even though I weigh almost 200. Okay? If I just had, a few months of training, I'm delusional. I get that. Okay? But I believe I'm capable of anything, but I can't be a UFC fighter and help people grow their TTRPG businesses. Okay? I
Right.
cannot do everything. And I know I'm more likely to succeed in the TTRPG stuff. Okay? I'm not that delusional. So I'm going to focus on that. And there's a million things I want to do in the TTRPG side of things. I have a document of that I basically call my not yet document. Look forward to me launching children's books sometime before I die. All right. I have some written, but I can't do that right now because if I try to do everything, nothing good will come of it. I will be too scattered to be effective.
I love
All
that.
right. So that is
The
the number one thing is that
not
you're
yet
capable
document.
of anything, but not everything. Focus up.
Nice. All right. Well, where can people find you? What do you do? All the socials and all that stuff.
You can find my typical fun D&D content on TikTok and YouTube. Just search Zack Applewhite D&D TikToks or D&D Shorts, or find me on TikTok that way. If you want to learn the business side of things, check out Tabletop Business Masterminds. That has its own socials on Facebook, on Instagram, but it's most prevalent on TikTok and YouTube. And if you want help, I am right now taking on a limited client list that I am helping people at an hourly rate of $25 an hour. It is my introductory rate that will go up next year. All right. Or at some point, it will go up. If you're interested, find your favorite social media platform that I'm on and DM me. If you're also interested in generally following the other stuff I'm creating or doing, DM me and just say, hey, I want to be on your email list. Hey, I want to know where that webinar is. And hey, I want some help. Can I give you $25 and get an hour of your time? Just hit me up. I'll talk to you there.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom, maybe making the TTRPG space a little bit more marketing friendly and people a little more comfortable with the idea of selling product, selling services, doing streams, whatever it is that they happen to be wanting to do. We will see you again maybe next year. We'll have you on again. I'd love to have you on again. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for
We'll
having me.
we'll
Awesome
see,
time.
we'll see the rest of you on our next stream, which I think is Sunday. We'll see you then. Bye, everybody.